Bangalore online. Nicole?
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us for a discussion about how an internship can propel your IT career, presented by IT Masters on behalf of Charles Sturt University and the Education Centre of Australia, or ECA. My name is Guy Coward, IT Masters Short Course Coordinator and MC. Depending on how you heard about this session, this is either extra content for our current free short course or a standalone vignette to help you weigh decisions about postgraduate study. In any case, I'm very excited to be with you tonight, as this is the closest I'll ever get to being like Hamish McDonald from Q&A. And I think it's a great opportunity to get in the way of a whole panel of learned people as opposed to just one mentor at a time. I'll introduce the panel very shortly. Before then though, just some housekeeping. I'm conscious that there might be a few newbies or people new to IT Masters and our functions tonight. Given we're in a Zoom webinar, we hope you'll make use of the Q&A and chat functions to enrich the discussion. We ask that you send all questions directly relevant to the discussion to the Q&A section, and that you send all administrative and anecdotal insights into the chat box. I really think that your insights can really augment what we're talking about, or any of the benefits of what we're talking about. You can chat with panelists only, which is all of the panelists and admin support in IT Masters, or to your fellow attendees as well. And you can make that choice by toggling through the drop-down box options once you've opened the chat log. Do please try to keep things tangentially at least related to what's going on. We'll have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar, or if a question is particularly relevant, I'll just interrupt and put it to the panel. We have a nominal session duration of 60 minutes, might run long depending on questions that get sent in, but if you need to leave, don't worry, we'll send you a recording within 24 hours with a slide deck and extra resources and links to them as well. Given the various ways you may have come to be here, I'll just quickly run through the relationship between IT Masters, Charles Sturt University and ECA. IT Masters is a training organisation that exclusively collaborates with Charles Sturt University basically to deliver and help deliver, develop IT and IT adjacent postgrad study options. After a 20-odd year relationship, IT Masters founders Martin and Louise Hale, who a lot of the IT Masters side of things people will remember, retired, selling the business to the ECA group, and we're really happy to have them with us, with the understanding the relationship between Charles Sturt and IT Masters would continue as usual. Satya will discuss ECA in more detail soon, but one of the really, I think, exciting effects of their joining forces with us is their established internship program, which is going to be phased into our postgraduate courses. So this discussion is aimed at promoting that program, and also aims at being a broader discussion about internships' place in industry practice. So introducing the panel briefly, I'll just go through my slides. Here's me being good at slides. So the panel, we'll start at the right. Satya on the right is a bit of a linchpin for the session, representing the ECA internships program and putting together this event. Really, it's been really lovely. We've also got Andy on the left, who is a recent intern host from Skilledfield, and he'll be speaking to that experience. Tim Jones there, some of you will know from the short course that this is bonus content for, a bit of an industry expert, really active in the IT community, both in the teaching and enterprise architecture space. Lorraine is operations manager at ECA Internships. She's going to be speaking briefly about, some of the ways we mitigate the risks associated with internships, because there's common pitfalls and we need to manage them. And Alec is just here as moral support, it seems. I had a really lovely chat with him before, and it seems that he's sort of a bit like, he's got more hats than Bartholomew Cubbins, who had 500, so that's quite a few. His claim to fame is, or one of them is, that he can speak for 28 minutes about a matchstick without any notice. But he's here basically in his capacity as, an organisational development consultant who who understands the importance of developing soft skills for those who are really tech heavy, and I guess the opposite for those that are coming from a career transition into IT sort of things, those that have existing soft skills and might need to develop some more tech ones. So I'm really excited. First panel discussion that I've ever emceed. Let's get into it, and I'll welcome Satya.
Thank you so much, Guy, for that introduction, and really excited to see the diversity of attendees we have from all corners of the globe. So I'm Satya, and as Guy said, I lead business development for ECA internships. So who really are we? We're an internship management company, and we work with a range of universities and host companies, one of them being Skillfield, and we have Andy here today to help really kickstart students' career from their university and help them join the Australian workforce. How do we do that? We run a range of internship programs that support student internships across Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane. More recently, we've launched a project-based virtual internship program. And for students that are still in the pandemic mode and remote internships have really kicked off, we offer those as well. We've partnered in Australia with around 500 host companies, and till date, we've placed around 7,000 students. And really, our approach is not get you an internship and that's the end of it. For us, really, the goal is to ensure that students are upskilled to the level where that internship converts into employment. So the whole journey is of importance to us, not just somebody comes to us and we find them an internship. How do we do that? What's different about us? Well, we match your skills to the field of internship that you're interested in, whether you're in project management, cloud computing, cybersecurity, which is a really, really hot area these days, or a range of different fields within IT, and so on. So we talk to you, we assign a dedicated consultant to you who helps you through the process and to ensure really that the outcomes that you're looking for are met. However, 2020 has been a challenging year, and the IT landscape has not been the easiest. If you could just move to the next slide. I've put down some points around that. A lot of companies have made jobs redundant, and the education industry has not been immune to that. But more importantly, with a lot of jobs being redundant, organizations becoming leaner, employers want candidates that have transferable skills and are less likely to take a bet on those that are new into the industry. They want people that have some amount of experience, that have some amount of competency and soft skills that they can kind of jump right in without the pain, to say train them for a very long period of time. But lastly, also work from home has kind of necessitated all of us to adapt and to upskill. While maybe, a couple of years, as an example, my father has had to switch from working in an office to working from home. And we've had very lengthy sessions on, training him on Zoom and basic things like that. So everybody at all levels in an organization, people have had to upskill and, adapt to the new situation. In saying that, this is here to stay. This is what the new normal is. And 2020 has kind of set the tone for what the next few decades will be like. So where do we fit in? As Guy rightly said, ECA and IT Masters have come together to collaborate and offer a very unique product where we focus not just on an employment angle, but to ensure that the students that enroll in these short courses gain the right skills, are able to gain an internship and join the workforce in the coming years. If you could just move to. So we call this the professional internship program, and really the goal for us is to help all of you kickstart your career in Australia, and by gaining meaningful experience and build a strong professional network, which is not given as much importance, but the value of the value of the networks and relationships people build is something that they carry for years to come. So what is the professional internship program all about? I'll talk to you about some features around the program. Sorry, there you go. So that I know there's a bunch of information there, but just to kind of dissect that for you, we help students across a range of internship fields such as cybersecurity, cloud computing, digital marketing, and project management. So if you're enrolled in one of the short courses, this is a really great opportunity for you to leverage not just the technical or the classroom knowledge you gain in that short course, but also translate that into real workplace experience within host company. We do these internships for the 3-month period, and this is a requirement of your individual course that you enroll in. But 3 months is a reasonable time for students to get their hands on a few different aspects in an organization and really apply all of the theoretical knowledge within a workplace situation. Internships work a little differently here. In Australia, not all internships are paid. However, we do work with several companies that will offer an allowance to cover basics such as, if you're traveling from, say, your house to the internship office, perhaps a travel allowance. And some companies to that extent will also offer a study or, a skilling allowance to help you kind of learn on the job as well. And like I said, I think the idea for us is a 360-degree approach. We don't want to just match you to a company and then leave you to kind of figure out everything else from there. Every internship that you enroll or we help you get started in has a training plan, which means we work with organizations to chart out what the student and what the supervisor really need to do across those 3 months, which is documented as part of a training plan. So there's no confusion, or there's no gray area on, hey, what am I doing this week? I was actually promised this, but this is not what I'm getting. So before students actually get an internship, they're provided with a role description. There is a proper formal interview process. And once that's all done, there is a training plan to ensure that the students and the supervisor is on track to achieve the outcomes. And a big question we get very commonly is around eligibility. And for us, I think, I was an international student in Australia. And for me, the biggest limitation was, ironically, having a student visa, because I had limited work rights and the many rejections I faced just because people wouldn't give me a chance, regardless of how good, say, my English was, how good my skills were. So we, in our program, we wanted to create something that's inclusive and accessible to a whole range of, visa holders. So yes, if you are on a student visa, you're absolutely allowed to and welcome to apply for the program. So where can you do this internship? We have offices in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane. So if you're looking to do an internship on site across these 3 cities, you're welcome to do so. But in addition to that, we also have remote internships. Say you're based in Tasmania or Adelaide or a different city, and we will match you to a host company, and you can, the structure remains the same, but you are welcome to do the internship remotely. Apart from that, we also have a project-based virtual internship program. I won't touch too much on that here, but it is a 3-week program where we build competencies and we work with students, with a host company to facilitate that project. So I know I've seen some questions around, how do we ensure that the host company is a good company, and what is really our due diligence process to ensure that, we're doing this in good faith for all of you. Kai, if I can move to the next slide, I'll run you through some of the steps we take to ensure that the host company is a good match to the students that are interning there. One important point is insurance cover. So everybody that actually signs up for the internship is automatically covered by voluntary workers insurance, and that covers any kind of workplace injury or any issues that come up through the internship. Regular check-ins, and as I mentioned, each candidate or each student or each intern that comes on board is actually assisted throughout the process, with a dedicated consultant. So there will be somebody that works very closely to understand what your areas of interests are. And once you start the internship, there's a midpoint check-in and there's an end of placement check-in. And this is the formal process. Of course, if there is any concern students have, they're most welcome to come reach out to us and talk us through or give us feedback. However, we have a formal process where there are 2 check-ins that are conducted by EC internships to ensure that the host and student are on track. And the detailed training plan, I've already touched on this, but yes, the idea is to ensure that there is a structure to the learning and the outcomes are met. Every host that we actually work with signs a host code of conduct, which has a whole bunch of rules around sexual harassment and how to kind of what is legal, what is not. So every host company has to sign a host code of conduct before we can even approve them as a host. More importantly, all of us as consultants actually visit every host in person. It has been challenging in COVID. I wouldn't say that it's not. And we've developed ways around where we can still ensure that due diligence is carried forward and is strict. But every host company is visited by the consultants to ensure that just the physical look and feel of the company is a right environment for the student that's being placed there. And yes, as part of the host site visit, we also do WHS checks, which is to ensure from the very small things like there is a table that meets all of the WHS requirements, to a chair, to all of the lighting, to a fire extinguisher. So it's all part of the checks that ECA consultants do to ensure that students get the most out of their internship experience. I'd like to now hand over to Guy, and please throw in your questions, and we'll take them towards the end of the session. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Satya. Just a couple of questions here about age limits. No, there'd be no age limits to these internships, would there?
No, there's no age limit to these internships.
No, but what it will do for those asking is, I guess the important consideration is where you are in your, journey to an IT career or already in an IT career. So I'm just going to chuck a poll up now because this will help us, answer the sorts of questions you have.
Absolutely.
Are you sort of Are you hoping to transition into a career or start out in a career, or are you currently working in IT? Because whether or not the internship is even for you, or when you take the internship as part of a postgraduate course, will really be influenced by your circumstances. It's understandable some people won't be able to sort of take the extra time out of their week if they're sort of working and studying and have kids and all these sorts of things. It's just another option that's available. So we've had about 50 people vote so far in the poll. Relatively even split between transitioning into IT and starting out in IT, about 26 to 30, 25 to 30%, and then 45% currently working in IT. So this might be an interesting opportunity for people who might be working part-time in IT, who could maybe get a foot in the door at another organization or take the next step in another, host organization. It's really going to be interesting to see how this will work. I'll introduce you now or reintroduce to Tim Jones. Many of you will remember from the second webinar of the short course that we're doing, which is IT Career Fundamentals. I'll just share the poll now so you can all see it on your screens. And then stop that. So I guess, Tim, thanks a lot for joining us again. How are you going? What tales of the last couple of weeks? And what news do you have for us about internships, or what's your experience with internships?
Absolutely. The experience with internships as such is there's a range of different types and structures for internships, which travel between graduate placements, for inter-year placements for some university courses, and this sort of placement, which is around picking up someone and making them available in an organisation as a learning opportunity rather than a direct work opportunity. But it really ties back closely to two prongs. If you're interested in IT and interested in IT as an ongoing career, you need to be a learner. If you're not a learner, you're going to be falling behind really quickly behind everyone else. So if you're interested in continuing to learn about new technologies, new capabilities, etc., then there's a lot of capability to continue to grow a career within IT, and the opportunities are endless. You can earn a fantastic career, you can have international travel, you can have a lot that comes with a really strong IT career, but it requires some effort on your part. The other side of that is also the view of how you get into IT in the first place. Right? So you need, first of all, from my view, some interest in the field. It's possible to get a job in anything if you're not interested in it, but it makes it a hell of a lot harder. Especially with the barriers for understanding IT, that if you're not interested in it, it'll show when you meet with people, and it'll make learning so much more difficult, the things you need to do to get over the line. But that initial impetus to be able to enter the IT space requires you to be open to opportunity. All right, so just as an example, they didn't have internships or anything like that around when I first entered IT. I entered at a point where I didn't have a degree or any formal qualifications behind me, but I was open to the opportunities laid in front of me. And I got my first IT role, ironically, through mistaken nepotism. So that was around asking for work when it was available, and something falling in my lap that allowed me to start an IT career. But from then onwards, I've continued to learn. I've continued to work from a perspective of getting degrees, certifications, training, and passing that training on to other people now as a mentor with IT Masters, running some of the master's level courses around cloud technologies, architecture, etc. I'm a Microsoft trainer. I'm currently training up to do TOGAF level training as well. So it's for me as well as anyone else in IT, especially when you're still on a kind of technical track, which as a global enterprise architect, I'm still within the technical sphere of the IT workspace. You need to keep learning along that pathway.
Gotta love a bit of nepotism.
Especially mistaken nepotism.
I guess I just got a couple of questions about where you would sort of see people taking their internships in the course of their postgraduate studies. It's going to start out in a grad cert, but I hope that with the trials being successful, we'll be able to have them in all of our postgraduate streams.
Yeah, well, I think that's as close to the start as possible, I think, is advantageous, because a lot of the process around getting a job, even when you've got vast amounts of experience and training and things like that behind you, it's a sales and marketing exercise for how you look to prospective employers. So one of the key things is how you manage your resume, how you can talk about the experience and workplaces that you've been in from the perspective of any jobs that you may be talking about. And also getting past that first check mark of, are you someone that is going to be allowed to actually interview for a role? Because that's one of the biggest barriers of most resumes end up on the cutting room floor. They end up not being seen by prospective employers. So anything that can elevate you above your peers, anything that can set you apart and make it look as if you're a great prospective person, both from the perspective of having done some work, having the initiative to get out and do this sort of program, and that you've got experience working in with that organization as well.
Okay. Would you say it's that early on in the course is still a good idea?
As early as possible, because ideally you would end up going through the program, doing some internships to do that work, and then finding paid work at some point after that while you continue the rest of your learning studies.
Okay, awesome. Thanks heaps.
Sure.
All right, so we'll have a bit more of a chat with Tim during the more inclusive panel discussion. We've got a few questions to sort of throw around, and I hope that everyone will send some of those in later. I might introduce Andy now. Andy Head from Skilledfield. Thanks for joining us, Andy.
Pleasure. Great to be here.
So we've got a little bit of a spiel here. Could you just briefly go over your story, though, to start?
Yeah, my personal story or my experience?
Yeah, how you got to be here, and then we'll get more into the I guess the story of your experience as a host.
Yeah. Well, that's how I got to be where I am right now. That's a really long one. I being in sales now for more than 25 years, and I actually started out life as a very passionate mechanical design engineer. That was always my passion. I loved drawing things when I was going through school. I loved the design technology subjects, and I got myself an apprenticeship as my first real job, which was back in 1990, if I remember correctly, at Land Rover, as it was in the UK back then. And what I learned really quickly from that experience is that everything that I thought was going to be valuable to me in the future, things that I thought I would really want to do as a career, I'd gotten it completely wrong.
Comforting.
Going into a design studio within a manufacturing environment was my ambition, and when I finally made it there, I realized that I really didn't fit. I didn't want to align with the ways of working, of having to do things the way everybody else did and when they did it and why they did it. I'm much more of a free thinking individual. So having had that opportunity as an apprentice, which is kind of like a modern day internship, for me personally was a great experience, because it told me that I needed to rethink. I needed to be flexible, and I needed to find a different path, which I did. And I found my way into sales, which is something I absolutely love. I'm working with customers all day long. I'm working with new technologies all day long. And unfortunately, I've worked for a number of companies who have wanted to introduce new technologies to markets quite frequently. So that's a very, very exciting journey that I've had. So I think if we could kind of pivot that back to the value of taking on any opportunity to get inside a workplace and not only practice the skills that you've been learning in academia, but also to kind of reinforce or challenge whether what you think you want to do is actually what you're really going to end up doing. So it is, a great, intrinsic learning experience as the person, as well as a great experience from what you can put on your CV and the skills that you can gain.
Cool, thanks.
So
you've had you've recently had an experience as a host, I believe.
Yes, yeah. So we were very fortunate actually to have 2 remote teams working for us, and it was just as I was starting this new role with Skillfield. And I just give you a very short background on Skillfield. We're a professional services company who are essentially a team of big data engineers and big data analysts. And we have found that our skills can be put to best use in the cybersecurity space. So we ingest data, high volumes of data, very varied data at frenetic velocity. And we identify behaviors and anomalies and identify vulnerabilities in our client systems that a conventional firewall or endpoint protection software just wouldn't even consider. So that's the way we're using big data to add real value in the cyberspace. And what we're trying to do right now is to scale out, is to take our services to more customers, and to identify what those customers really need from professional services companies. So having had the opportunity to gain some resource to help us with research, to help test our ideas against people who knew nothing about us or our value proposition, to bring in concepts and models that we could deploy ourselves after the intern program, to make sure that we were progressing with more resilient and more robust methodology, just making sure that we didn't miss anything or get anything wrong. And also the opportunity to build relationships with a whole host of young fresh-faced, very, very passionate, very motivated people was a fantastic experience for us. So we are very, very strong advocates of the intern program, and we would strongly recommend any organization put themselves out there and give somebody a chance to come in and show what they can do and practice their skills and put them to good use.
Great. And what sort of activities, so to speak, did you get your interns to perform?
So we had them look at a specific set of technologies, starting with the big data and then applying it to a specific methodology called SEAM, which is Security, Incident and Event Monitoring. And SEAM is, it can be deployed by way of software tools that you can purchase from a number of vendors, IBM, Splunk, Elastic. But with all of those tools comes a very high dependency on people's skills to be able to tune those tools to your own environment and to make sure that they're able to ingest the data and normalize it and analyze it to give you the outcomes that you're looking for. So we gave the team a bit of exposure to what that technology can do, and we asked them to go and identify other sectors across any industry really and use cases where they felt those tools could be deployed to good use and deliver good value. And the research that they went through, the questions that they asked us on their way through that journey to validate their thinking, that really tested us. We really had to think hard to keep up with those guys, to keep them going in the right direction and to make sure that we were giving them really good guidance to get good outcomes. But they delivered really good value. They gave us a couple of presentation decks full of data, full of research, full of ideas. And Satya, I hope you can give the team some feedback. Actually, a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're putting a lot of that research to direct use right now in terms of how we're taking a couple of new product offers to market. So
that's
absolutely
wonderful to know, Andy. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, and have you heard anything, Satya, about their experience? How they've have they been able to deliver any feedback to you?
Oh, absolutely. I think two of them have also, because they were students just starting out, we actually got one of them on board, helping us with an EC internships as well as a full-time employee, which was for us, I guess, a really, really big success story. And apart from just, delivering the project outcomes, just the fact that they got to interact with, Andy and Moaz and go through that experience, all of them felt much more confident in their own ability to enter the workforce. And reflecting on their journey from day one to when they finished their internship, each one of them said that, I now feel prepared and confident that in this field, that I'll find a job very, very easily. And we're waiting for them to finish their graduation. And, when we hear all of their the companies that they get into, I'll definitely I'll let you know.
Right, we'll have to do some newsletter pieces.
Absolutely.
Okay. I suppose now we'll move on to, I guess, a more generalized panel discussion. Satya, do you have any of the general prompts that you want to throw to the panel available? I'm looking at me presentation. Are there any specific questions you'd like to lead with?
Absolutely. I guess maybe just to kind of start off, I'd like to introduce Alec actually, and Alec's on the panel, and you've heard a little snippet from him earlier, but he's an organizational learning and development expert. And prior to the webinar starting, I was talking to all of you around, how Alec kind of introduced me to the Herman Brain Development Model. We did a session on that at ECA, and I was telling him how a few months after that I got promoted. So I was like, that's something I'll always remember. I guess what I did want to ask you in that regard, Alec, is, IT is a very technical, at least a traditionally very technical field where maybe there's less emphasis on soft skills. So in the light of that, what are your thoughts on how important and really what soft skills should people in the IT space focus on?
Thank you for that, Satya. It's quite interesting. I was talking with Guy a little while ago on IT. Even if I go back 25 years ago, IT people were kept in an area. They were mostly nocturnal. We fed them pizzas, gave them a can of Coke, and away they went. They didn't have a lot of interaction outside what was traditional for them. But what's happening now is that hard skills, and let's differentiate between hard skills and soft skills. We throw these terms around. Hard skills are what you learn at university. These are the skills in IT itself. I often say when I'm coaching and mentoring that your hard skills will get you in the door. But to develop further in the organisation, and even in the way IT is at the moment, you need to develop a raft of soft skills. Now, when we talk about soft skills, what are they? One of the roles that I held prior to coming to working with ECA and a lot of other things that I did, I was the Director of Human Resources for Asia Pacific and India for the world's largest crane company. I also sat on the HR Global Board, and I managed a number of the major HR initiatives globally. One of those was looking at all the skills needed for different areas amongst 46,500 different people. And what we did is we pulled things down into job clusters. So in the job clusters, we looked at what were the hard skills, what were the soft skills that were needed for these roles. And what I'm going to share with you is that work in the area of IT. Now, one of the things to understand at the moment, we're going through the fourth wave of industrial revolution. We call it Industry 4. It couples up to the Internet of Things. We live in a connected world now. COVID has shown us how connected we are. I often write on LinkedIn, when we come out of COVID, the world's never going to be the same again. We are very much a distributed workforce nowadays. So what are some of the soft skills that are going to be needed moving forward? One of the main ones is creativity. And when we're looking at artificial intelligence and we're looking at where the world's going, robots and machines can do many things. At the moment, one of the things that they can't do a lot of is creative thinking. And this is one of the skills that are often needed within IT, is to come up with creative solutions when you're working with various softwares, is coming up with creative ways of doing things. And this builds into the ability to be able to think critically. Now, we used to call this analytical thinking, but now it's more critical thinking. It's being able to look at things as far as problem solving is going and be able to critically analyse what's happening. And the big thing is decision making and problem solving skills. For IT now, it's a lot bigger area than what it used to be. And there are a lot more skills needed. So you needed to be able to solve problems, to be able to make decisions, linked into how do you critically think. Now, this is one that is always contentious, and it's always one that I talk about, and that's emotional intelligence. Now, I've been involved in emotional intelligence since I picked up Dan Goldman's book in 1996, so a lot of years ago. Andy, you did your apprenticeship in 1990. I did mine in 1969.
Wow, good for you.
I've got a few years on you.
Before I was born.
Yeah, thank you for that. Most people say my parents aren't as old as you. But we have seen not a shift towards emotional intelligence, but it's become a requirement within organisations. You know, it's the ability to be able to be self-aware, to understand your own emotions, how your emotions impact on people around you. You know, it's developing this whole raft of, I call them mindfulness. I do a lot of work around mindfulness coaching, which I link into emotional intelligence with self-awareness. But these are the big things nowadays, is to understand and to be able to work with a range of emotions, both your own and other people. But there's another field that I've been doing a lot of work around, and that's cultural intelligence, is that we work now with people from so many different cultures. You know, for many of you who've studied at university as international students, you will come across many different cultures. And it's our ability to be able to work with those different cultures, to be able to understand different cultures, and to be able to be tolerant. And this leads us into interpersonal communication skills. And this is just not the ability to be able to talk. As Guy said, I once spoke for 28 minutes on a match. I used to run or establish a Toastmasters program within an organisation. And we used to run Toastmasters programs. And they challenged me one day how long I could speak to something. I said, give me something. They gave me a match. So I took 28 minutes on that. But it's not only speaking, you know. Interpersonal communication is about listening. You know, it's about active listening. It's about listening with being connected with someone. And this is where emotional intelligence comes in. To be able to read someone's body language, to be able to read someone's cues, you know, to be able to listen to someone's voice, and to be able to understand exactly what's happening. Now, traditionally, IT people weren't known for being warm, fuzzy, cozy type of people. That's changed over the years, and the role has changed as well. You know, it's our ability to develop good judgment, good decision making. You know, I spoke about cultural intelligence. The other thing now is you've got to be flexible. You've got to be open to change. You know, there's nothing that's more constant than change. So you've got to be not only willing to change, but one of the big things is you've got to be prepared to be a change agent. You know, to be looking at how do we do things differently. You know, it's about being proactive rather than reactive, not being task focused, but looking at how do I solve a problem. You know, these are some of the main things that I see that are really needed in the area of soft skills. Satya talked about something I use called the Herman Brain Dominance Instrument, which I've been using since you did your apprenticeship, Andy, 1990. The HBDI looks at the way we think, right brain, left brain, we call it frontal cortex and limbic, but we can actually look at our thinking. And by looking at our thinking, we can develop other modes of thinking, other ways of being able to do things. So they're the key things that I see around the important things for soft skill development.
Thanks, Alec. And I suppose Andy and Tim, you know, that's something from my understanding that is quite important in both of your fields. Tim as an educator and as someone who works with a bunch of clients advising on how they might architect their business solutions.
Absolutely. It's important to keep in mind all of those things, and particularly how you're dealing with people on a day-to-day basis. So the combination of soft skills and hard skills continues to be important no matter what level you are within an organization or what level you are for the job that you're running.
Yeah, thanks. And Andy, any further points on soft skills?
I would just really reinforce the value of the emotional intelligence aspects that Alec was explaining. The ability to align your behaviors, your communication, how you articulate various challenges, and how you present solutions. The way that you do it is, in my experience, at least as important, if not more important, than the technical contents that you're trying to get across. You may have the very, very best idea in the world, but if you're not able to communicate that in the right way at the right time with people, that idea is never going to get heard. So it is absolutely imperative that you're able to align yourself with your co-workers and with your clients and with the wider environment.
Yeah, that certainly corresponds not only with Tim's lecture from the short course, but Matt and Jeremy's as well on cybersecurity and networking. I suppose the important thing to note is that everyone who's coming to not only this webinar, but also to postgraduate study has different existing skill sets. And I guess the idea is to fill gaps in knowledge and build new skills. And I guess the onus is on us to provide enough host opportunities to be able to appropriately match the intern to the host. Not only will some hosts need a more technically minded intern, other hosts will need to be able to find people to help them communicate their issues, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to find a right fit for all sorts of students. Lauren, it might be a nice time to introduce you. As I understand it, you're responsible for sort of making sure that the hosts and interns mesh well. Am I right in that understanding?
That's correct. That's correct. Yes.
So I'm really interested in sort of not only using tonight as an opportunity to hopefully promote the program from the point of view of interns, but also given we've already got sort of 45, I think it was, % of people already working in IT, maybe their ability to, I guess, influence or if they are decision makers, to make decisions, to sort of reach out to us and maybe get an opportunity to sort of have the I guess the low labor costs that might get a project across the line in terms of a cost benefit situation, but also build those relationships and get some useful human capital in the business.
Sure, absolutely. I can just throw some light in for those who are actually starting out, as well as for those who are working in IT or even transitioning. And there could be different angles there. I think for those who are starting out, what's important to consider is what does an internship do for you? And what you gain in school or in uni is knowledge. What you gain with an internship once you've just finished that knowledge is skill. And so putting that knowledge to practical use is really, really important to kind of project your career and sort of get the feeler of, is this the right thing for me or not? I want to bring in 2 points here as well, one from Tim and one from Andy. I think Tim talked about the importance of, if you're in IT, then be ready to learn, every day. I think that is so important. That is extremely important because you will get knowledge at uni and you get new skills when you do an internship. You will learn about different tools, different applications. You'll even learn things that you probably, have not used at uni at all, but are used in the workplace. For example, tools like Smartsheets or, new digital tools being used, new project management tools being used these days. And you get hands-on experience with that. So it's really practical use of, tools and systems that you learn. There are other things that you can get and from an internship, and that is about mentorship. I think, when you start out, and like Andy mentioned, you might start out with something and think that, look, this is what I know best, and that's a great fit for me. But then when you actually get into it, you realize, oh, that's not my cup of tea. And so having a good mentor is really important. An internship is where you actually forge those connections, where you build connections, and you got to really use that to your advantage. Connect with people in your workplace when you're doing an internship, get to know them, because you never know, you might get an opportunity for a job at the end of your internship if you're really good at what you do. Or if you don't, you'll at least have mentors that you can relate to and that you can communicate with. And they'll probably pass you on to somebody else they know, who might then ultimately land you that job that you're looking for. So don't underestimate the importance of mentors and networking. It's also important for those who are seeking transition. Let's say you want to move up. Looking at internship is not always the best thing, but if you get a paid internship, that's a good option as well. So you might think of you do not look at your salary at that point in time, because you are looking at transition. So you've got to think of what you want to learn, what are the skills you want to gain, and then sort of move into that new career. So those of you thinking of transition, an internship is a good option as well, because that's how you sort of transition into what you're looking for and gain new skills or skills that you really want to improve on. But I'd also like to talk to those that are current IT students and probably in roles that are decision makers as well. And what's the benefit of really hosting an intern? I think, as Andy pointed out earlier, I think one of the best things that Satya and I see all the time is fresh perspectives. Somebody once told me that think of fresh perspective in this way. Think of a horse, and a horse race. And what happens when horses are actually racing? They've got blinders, covering them on the sides. So what happens? They tend to look straight in front and they race straight ahead in one direction. And that's what happens to us when we are in organizations for a long time. We tend to look straight ahead, we tend to look with blinders, and we can't really see left or right. And then what happens? You have interns coming in, and they bring in, curveballs, and they bring in fresh thought, and you sort of open up these blinders, and you can see 360 degrees around you. So that's really the benefit of having interns and hosting interns, because you get absolute fresh perspective. The other thing that you get from interns is a lot of the young graduates are what we call as digital natives. They're sort of born with technology in their veins, and really what happens is you tend to get the absolute infusion of technology. You tend to get that infusion of digital ideas, and that is a wonderful thing for hosts as well, because that again brings in some ideas that they've not seen before. So yeah, Guy, there's different sets of opportunities for fresh graduates, for those who are in transition, as well as for hosts.
Thanks so much, Lauren. Just on that, to take it back a step, just to when you were talking about career transition for those already in IT, that'd be
Yes.
I guess that's where our existing credit and eligibility, I guess, mechanisms would be really useful as well. If you've already if you're sort of already 7 or 10 years into a networking career, for example, and looking to jump into a security, or security looking to jump into cloud, if you've got a couple of industry certifications or a bit of pre-existing knowledge, we might be able to help you out with some recognition of prior learning, and then you can take an internship, get the foot in the door, build or fill knowledge gaps just with 1 or 2 specific subjects as part of a grad cert, whilst I guess networking for a solid 3 months is with the internship, and then assuming you get a job straight out of the internship because you've wowed them with your soft skills as well, you can then go on and hopefully they'll sponsor you for the rest of the masters. Like these are I guess there's so many potential ways you could use it, and it really does depend on your position.
Great, absolutely. Just to add in quickly, Guy, one of the things that we do to make sure that match really works well is, we work out training plans with host companies. And when we actually place some students in a 12-week internship, we work out detailed training plans that ensure that really what the intern is looking for, matches well. And that really is what helps them build the skills that they're looking for.
Great, thanks so much. Have you got any sort of examples, Satya or Lauren, about IT opportunities for people that we can sort of throw around? Satya, you were describing a week or so ago how it might not be quite so simple. You might actually go out and seek people once you have these interviews, but maybe some examples from the past if there's none already on the books.
Yeah, I guess to be honest, IT is one of the most in-demand roles, both from students wanting to do internships, but also host companies, wanting to host students. As an example, we actually post a lot of these internship opportunities on our LinkedIn page, and we've also gotten some up on our website. We try and update them once every month, but we don't publish all of them just because of confidentiality reasons. But yeah, in IT, anywhere from say networking to cloud computing, to enterprise resource planning is a wide range of fields that we place interns in.
Okay, thanks very much. All right, I'll share my screen again because I'm conscious of the time. We've just reached the half hour. Here's just a little slide Satya put together. There's a bit of funnies in there, but be responsible. Don't get too wasted at the Christmas party sort of thing. But the one at the bottom left, I think, is the really important one. Juggling study, work, and life is hard. Always get to the office on time, but also, provided you are keen on getting into the postgrad study, get on the front foot and let us know what your existing commitments are. It will really help tailor a study plan. Some people will be able to take another subject whilst doing an internship. Some people won't. It makes a lot of sense to sort of build a plan together, and then that'll help us feed that into ECA people who can then who will then no doubt use that information to help them match to the right person, or to the right host, I should say. We'll probably go to a Q&A session. We've got about 20 questions here, but I think a lot of them will just need to sort of rush through, or not so much rush through as some of them are maybe a bit outside the scope of this. There's a lot of people who have sort of put in their personal details, and thank you so much for that. What I'll do is I'll just sort of dismiss those questions, but what we do is we download the log of all the questions at the end of the webinar, and anyone that's put their details in will get in touch with and answer your query directly. So Robert's asked a question for Satya. Does internship lead directly to an employment offer in Australia? Rarely, sometimes, often. Have you got any nice stories? And have you got any, I guess, disaster stories as well? Because
plenty of stories. Just to give you some statistics, so about 60 to 65% students that do these internships do get placed. However, in Australia, there's if you need to place somebody, you need to either be partner with a recruiter or have a license to recruit. We're an internship management company, and potentially in 2021, we might have offerings where we translate all the way to recruitment. But at this moment, we don't have a job guarantee of sorts. But look, really an internship, and at least from my experience, and I'm sure the panel can attest to it, is it depends on your work ethic, right? Like the 4 things to not do. If you're in your internships lacking of watching videos and not making the most of the opportunity, you're less likely to stick around. But also, companies are looking for opportunities to try people before they maybe get them on board, because this is an opportunity to not, if they're partnering with a recruiter, they'll have to pay a lot of money for them to source somebody, and then they're tied up with the whole legal setting of going through a probation and things like that. But whereas an internship is, try before you buy, is low risk, but they get to try somebody before they make a decision on getting them on board. So it's highly likely that if you do well at an internship, that and if an opportunity arises, that you may as well end up getting that.
Would anyone else like to share any sort of stories from their past about interns that they've experienced? We've heard of Andy's. Any others?
I have another personal experience I can share, Guy. It was actually my son who studied at university for 4 years. He studied politics, philosophy, and economics, and he graduated with an honours degree in that. And he also didn't like those the environment that would take him into. He got himself an intern program in IT with a company in Melbourne. It was a 3-month run. They took him on at the end of the 3 months, even though he had never worked in IT previously. And he is now a senior UX designer after just 3 years. So, you know, bringing the right aptitude, the right passion, you know, that demand, that drive to learn and adopt new skills, that stands you in really good stead. So, yeah, it certainly worked out very well for him.
I'm glad to hear. Richard asks, are there internships for cybersecurity and digital forensics? I might just, you know, maybe not go into specific opportunities, but I guess what sort of scope have you got for increasing the range of opportunities? And if someone wants to work in a particular area, is it possible to sort of set one up as we go?
Yeah, I can take that question, guys. So what we do is we tend to understand the person's resume and the kind of skills that they have, and then we go out and match them to companies that we have within our network. If we don't have that company within our network, then we actually try to scope out that company. It may take a little longer, but generally we try to place students between 4 to 6 weeks. That is what we hope to place a student in. So all we really need is to get their resume and understand really what are the specifics that they're looking for. Sometimes we get hosts also giving us specific skills that they're looking for in interns. So like Annie mentioned UX, some people look at React or some kind of programming skills. And then we look at the skills that the interns have and then actually place them. So we use our systems and our databases to actually pull out and make a match, and then select the right host company. We also give students a choice of up to about 3 different companies. So it's not that there's just the one interview that they go to, but they could go to up to about 3 interviews and then decide which one works best for them.
Thanks a lot. Nandeep asks, are the internships given while study is still ongoing? And yes, absolutely, that's the case. It might be the case that you can study while you're doing an internship. It's not necessary. You can sort of mix and match. But as Tim was saying earlier, the earlier you can do it in your course, the better, because that'll just give you the opportunity to sort of, I guess, cut your teeth, build some good relationships, and maybe work out which areas of most interest to you. Just a couple more. Will the internship be available on the Masters in Cloud Computing 2021? No, we're going to start it out with a grad cert in career transition as a sort of a trial, make sure that we've got all of the systems in place because it's a new program. And then as that sort of beds in, then we'll open it up to more people. Have you got any sort of phased plans, Satya?
Sorry, phase plans
into the rest of the postgraduate opportunities? Is it sort of going to be once we have this one bedded down, will we just sort of make it available to all of the courses, or is it just going to be targeted, or will it just be driven by demand?
Yes, I think the simple answer is yes. We'll work closely with the IT Masters team and then, kind of chalk out a plan to decide which subjects and which courses we roll these out to.
Okay, great. So Sam's asked, will IT Masters be doing a webinar soon on different types of IT Masters degrees? There's as we've been saying, we're focusing on one grad cert, but we also have a series of other ones that Tim teaches on, including Masters of Cloud Computing and Virtualization, Cybersecurity, Networking, Project Management, and even Business Administration with an emphasis on computing. There's heaps of other content on the IT Masters page, so go and have a chat, look for all of that. And we've also got all of our other short courses you can have a look at, and that'll help you, I guess, build an idea of what IT Masters does. We'll send you out, as this webinar closes, we'll send out a recording, within the next 24 hours, and we'll have a bunch of links with the relevant information and also where you can go for more information about the services that ECA, Skillfield, and IT Masters all provide, as well as just some extra reading for you to mull over as we go into the next year. The remaining questions are again sort of those sort of individual cases, which I'm hoping not to get too much into. So I guess just any final thoughts, everyone? Anything they'd like to add before we sign off and thank everyone?
Lifelong learning. You've got to have the concept that you're going to learn right through your life. Tim touched on it.
Beauty. Thanks, Alec.
And just a quick one for me is just to remind everyone just how rewarding a career in IT can be, both personally, intellectually, financially, all of the above. It's something that's certainly suited me down to the ground, and starting on a career in IT, I think, is a great pathway for anyone that's well suited to the challenges that they're going to face.
Thanks, Tim.
Just like to thank Andy, for taking his time to come in today on the call, and Alec as well. Thank you very much to people from IT Masters as well. And finally, to all the participants on the call, the best way to connect with us is on LinkedIn. So I think we've already sent the links through. You can simply follow us on LinkedIn and get all the latest updates. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. And I might just leave it to you, Satya, to sign us off, and then I'll end the webinar. Thanks, Hannah, also for looking after the chat and all of the admin. It's been a huge logistical challenge getting all of us cats herded together, so well done. But yeah, I'll leave it to you, Satya.
Thank you, Guy. Thank you to all the panelists this evening for your time and for being here and for sharing your insights with all the attendees. Apologies for the dark background here, but this has been a crazy year. We're almost at the end of it. I think UK got its first shot of vaccines today, so there's light at the end of the tunnel. But keep at it, work hard, stay curious, and good night to everybody.